All right. Hello, everybody. My name's Tyler Brownell, presenting today on a very brief presentation of the evolution of the Japanese Arisaka rifle during World War II. By no means is this going to cover all of them. There are many, many variations, many contractors, but this is just to give a little overview of the basic evolution of the rifle as it progressed through the war. Just very brief background on the development of Japanese firearms. You had in 1880, the first domestically produced firearm for the Japanese was the Type 13 rifle, also known as the Murata rifle. This was, as I said, the first domestically produced in Japan at the time. It was a single shot 11 millimeter bolt action based on the French Gras rifle. Building onto this, in 1895 was developed the Type 30 bolt-action rifle. This was designed by Meiji Arisaka. This is where the term Arisaka rifle comes from. This was, like a lot of other rifles at the time, a 5-shot box magazine, and it fired 6.5 by 50 millimeter standard cartridge. This was used extensively in the Russo-Japanese War. It was the main battle rifle for the Japanese forces during that conflict. It was also exported in large numbers to both Russia and the UK during World War I, given to the Arabs during the Arab revolts, so on. After the Russo-Japanese War, or actually rather during the war in 1905, Major Kijiro Nambu, you'll recognize the name Nambu, of course. He's considered the John Browning of Japan. He developed the Type 30, or I'm sorry, a redesign of the Type 30, which he called the Type 38 rifle. This is, for all intents and purposes, just a slight modification of the Type 30. It incorporated a much simpler to produce and maintain bolt that had much fewer pieces to it. And it also added a dust cover because during the Russo-Japanese War, it was very, very dusty conditions. And the Japanese quickly found that their bolts were getting jammed with the thick dust of Manchuria. A few of these did see service during the Russo-Japanese War, but not many of them were able to get out before the war ended in 1906. However, this would be the most produced Japanese rifle of the period. 3 million of them produced all the way up until 1944, and another million or so produced in various variants of the Type 38, carbines, sniper rifle, etc. Like the Type 30, these were used extensively. You can see on the screen here on the left, of course, is the Japanese fighting in China. Type 38 was the main battle rifle for Japanese forces during World War II. We have here a Type 38, and you can see it's a much longer rifle, very standard for that kind of period, similar to the French rifles, the Gewehr 98, before they made a carbine variant. It has the dust cover, it has the simpler bolt, which you won't be able to tell without seeing the Type 30, of course, an extending ladder sight, everything of that sort. Besides World War II, the Japanese also exported it extensively to the Russians, again, like the Type 30. And from the Russians, it made its way out to the Poles, the Finns, the Ukrainians, used extensively throughout Eastern Europe during the Russian Civil War. And on the right, you can see in the picture there is actually a British soldier equipped with one. The British government purchased a large number of Type 38s before they were able to produce the Enfield in sufficient numbers to equip their forces. Now, in 1939, Major Nambu again developed the Type 99 rifle as a further development of the Type 38. And unlike the Type 38 building on the Type 30 by just being a very minor change, the Type 99 was effectively a complete overhaul. We have here one of the earlier models of Type 99. This one is made by Nagoya. It's a Series 5. This one specifically was manufactured in August of 1943, but it still retains a lot of the very early characteristics that we'll talk about in a second. But as I said, it's a major overhaul from the Type 38. Whereas the previous models were 6.5 by 50. This used a 7.7 by 58 cartridge, significantly more powerful. It also just obviously much shorter. It implemented a monopod for stable firing in a static position. as well as very unique anti-aircraft sight, which I'm not sure how well that'll show up on the video, but it has wings that fold out so that a soldier could theoretically track a passing aircraft by measuring its speed using these wings. Very quick side, just talking about the designations of these rifles, because I was very confused for a long time myself. I actually can't really see my screen. So Emperor Meiji was the first real emperor of Japan during the modern period. He came into power in 1868 after a civil war in Japan, kicked out the shogun, and he consolidated power. His reign begins what was called the Meiji Era, and everything designed, anything military designed during his reign, the designation was assigned per the year of his reign. So 1868 was his first year as emperor. Type 1 would be from that year. And it continues on until 1905 was the 38th year of his reign, hence type 38. But to make things more confusing, when the emperor died and the next emperor took over, the numbers start over again. So the next emperor was Emperor Taisho, took over in 1912. So 1912 now becomes first year again. But then when Emperor Showa, who was Hirohito, took power in 1926, initially, they started doing the same thing and then said, this is way too confusing. This is going to confuse us and others. So instead, they took the year that the Japanese Empire was founded, which is approximately 660 BCE, and said everything from there is a development from that. So the year 1939 was the year 2599 on the Japanese calendar. So they take the last two digits, type 99, and stems from there. Just to make it more confusing, after the empire fell in 45 and the US occupation began, they changed it yet again so that now the year was the standard calendar year. So the type 60 was from 1960. And it continues to that to this day. So today, anything designed is the type 25. So this is just a quick chart. I won't spend too much time on it, but this is just some markings of Japanese rifles during the war. These are adopted from the Japanese Rifles of World War II book by Duncan McCollum. Symbols that you will often see on the receiver. You won't see it in the video or anywhere else, but it's right here above the receiver is the designation of the rifle. It's Shiki is type, and then QQ is 99, so type 99. The chrysanthemum is the symbol of the emperor. That was just to mark anything as being essentially imperial property. And then various markings denoting the series it was made, the date, everything of that sort. That's how you can determine when a rifle was made, who made it, etc. So the point of this is to show the development of the rifle over the course of the war, how it changed. Japan obviously did not fare very well in the war. So over time, they are one of the only countries that seriously simplified their designs. So this, again, is an earlier model. This one was made in August 1943. However, it has a lot of the same characteristics of one that was made in 1939. Again, monopod, the folding out anti-aircraft sights, and just very complex designs. Cleaning rod, guards on the front sight, very elaborate bolt. And one of my favorite features of Japanese rifles is a safety that, unlike having a trigger safety with these, I'll be able to close that again, I suspect. Did that wrong. But either way, you would place your palm on the back of the safety, push it in, and pivot your hand 45 degrees. And that's how you lock it. So you can see from the pictures, this is from that same rifle, and these are some of the characteristics of one. The palm safety has a very knurled appearance, very elaborately designed. The bolt is very thick, well manufactured. You contrast that to this rifle here, which is a early 1945 manufacture. Everything's been very heavily simplified. If you look toward the front of the rifle, again, you have the guards just to make sure that the front sight doesn't get bent. The rear sight has folding mechanism, has the anti-aircraft sights. You fast forward to 45, and suddenly it is as simple as a rifle sight can get. I figure you're not going to be doing a whole lot of aiming. The same thing actually occurred with bayonets as well. So we have a lineup of 5 bayonets here. Just back up. These range from early war or pre-war all the way up to 1945 as well. And characteristics are, of course, on the handguard and on the scabbard itself. Very elaborate. You have what is called a quillion that's hooked here. You have a very elaborate bird's head pommel, a rounded button. As you progress, though, through the war, you start to see certain things simplified and simplified further and further still. Eventually, the metal scabbards for the bayonets give way to a wooden or bamboo sheath, which is held together by twine and the bare minimum of metal. The hilt itself is obviously very simplified as well. The bird's head is now removed and it's simply a straight metal piece. And by the end of the war, it is, again, as simple as it can possibly be. Absolute bare minimum wood, bare minimum metal, incredibly simple to manufacture. And on the blades as well, very much simplified. Earlier on, a very elaborate, very well-made blade with the groove running down the entire length. By the end of the war, it is a very poorly machined piece of metal, no groove, barely sharpened, just as simple as it can be to produce. And I'm fascinated by Japanese rifles because nowhere else do you see really this degree of simplification. And it just demonstrates how rough things were for the Japanese by the end of the war. So with that, thank you.